Welcome. We're David and Hillary, and this is our movie POSTview of the movie My Dead Friend Zoe. So in the POSTview, we talk about spoilers. We talk about the whole movie. This is for people who have seen it, or if you don't care about hearing spoilers. So just want to make sure you're in the right place. We also have a movie preview without spoilers. If you're trying to decide if you want to see it or not, you might check that out on our homepage, The David and Hillary Show at YouTube. So, My Dead Friend Zoe. Hillary, what did you think?
I loved it. You know, when you said, hey, let's go see that movie, I thought, what? I don't even remember this title. And I just trusted you. And wow. The only thing I wish is that you would have said, let's go see My Dead Friend Zoe and bring tissue.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's quite a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. So well done, though. Really well done.
Well, I really like the contrast between Zoe's smart aleck personality and then the serious subject matter of the movie.
Yes.
It made it, I thought, a lot easier to kind of have that discussion where, you know, a movie can be a discussion. The plot is forcing you to kind of deal with something almost as if it's a discussion. Yeah. And that juxtaposition between the comedy, the snarky comments, and at times inappropriate, like when she gets up and starts walking around in the middle of group therapy, and this is early in the movie, and you're still like, well, wait, what's happening? She's already dead, right? What is? And then you realize nobody else can see it. Yeah. And Morgan Freeman looks at Merritt, and he's like, "You okay?" And
yeah. Or in the cemetery when Zoe starts making fun of some of the names on the tombstones, and Merritt's like, you can't do that. She's like, yeah, I can. These are my people.
Yeah.
I can make fun of them.
Right. So that part was fun, and I thought it was smart because it made it easier to deal with the topic.
Yes.
To have that discussion, as I said.
Really well done.
And I thought from the flashbacks, from what we knew of Zoe's personality when she was alive, Merritt's manifestation of Zoe was pretty accurate.
It seemed to be. Yeah. I loved the flashbacks. Little by little, you get to know Zoe and Merritt, their friendship, and I loved it. I loved their portrayal of just what kind of friends they were. They're in the Army together, and they're both just so fun and seem to be just great friends. Yeah. I love their portrayal of the friendship. I just feel like everybody's got that one friend that they get all your jokes. They laugh at your jokes, even if they're not that funny. They're just kind of loyal, faithful. That's your go-to friend. Yeah. And that's what these two girls seem to be for each other. They were that friend. Yeah. And I loved it. We find out that when they're not in the Army, they're actually both from really different backgrounds, really different worlds. Yep. And that stuff kind of comes into play. And you realize in some of these flashbacks that Zoe knows that. Zoe has a better grasp on that than Merritt does. Mm-hmm. And she tries to kind of tell her, when we go back, it won't be the same for us. It's going to be different for me. And Merritt's like, no, we're always going to be friends. We're always going to be together. I've got you. Right. And so I love that friendship, but there's already that tension in the beginning where Zoe knows we're not going back to the same world. Yeah. Yeah. That was sad. On a different note, I mentioned this a little bit in the preview. I was glad that the movie makers did not try to make Zoe look dead. Right. Or to make her look more and more dead as time went on. I think I've seen portrayals like that in the past, but we're not into horror or gore. If you are, you have lots of options out there, and I'm sure you already won't be reviewing any of them. We won't, but you already know that there's lots of places you can get that. I thought by not doing that, it kept the focus on point. Yes. And it made it more respectful of the treatment of PTSD and what was actually going on in Merritt's life, and her grandfather and, other characters, but it kept the focus where it should be. I felt like in a movie like this that wasn't about
gore or horror, that would have been really distracting. So I was glad they didn't do that.
They made her so real. There's one scene at the 4th of July fair where out of the corner of my eye I was like, oh, somebody just stole a caramel apple from the and then I find out, oh, that was Zoe. Like she's imagining that Zoe would have stolen that apple.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, they made her look like a real person because I thought she just stole that caramel apple.
That
so
was funny.
Speaking of the 4th of July scene, we find out that Merritt's grandpa has a lake house. They live on the lake. And every year they would go out for the 4th of July celebration.
Yep.
And I love this theme. It happens. You kind of hear about this several times in the movie. But it's a big deal. When Merritt is a child, she goes to the 4th of July festival with Grandpa. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've ever done this, or I think we've been together when bands have done this.
Yeah.
But they'll go through the fight song for each branch of the military.
Right.
And then you're supposed to stand and they honor the...
If you served in that branch,
yes.
you stand when your song is played, yeah.
And everybody honors the veterans that have served, which I love that. So Merritt has this memory of every year they go to the 4th of July picnic, they play the fight song, Grandpa stands for the Army, and she just says, I just remember looking up and my grandpa seemed so tall.
Right.
And that was the reason she went into the Army.
Yeah.
And so
I don't
just
know if it's called
it.
a fight song, by the way.
Well, I thought the only reason I'm saying that
we're
is
not,
because I think
we didn't serve in the military. I always feel like I'm a little on the outside looking in
I could
with
totally
some of
be
these
wrong.
discussions, but I'm just picturing people laughing at us for
Yeah,
saying
go ahead. I'll tell you why I said it. Because I read it or I heard it when I was researching this.
Maybe it is.
And when I read it, I was like, what? That's weird. But I thought, well, I mean, maybe that's...
Schools have fight songs.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Sports teams.
Go ahead and comment on how wrong we are. It would be great.
David and Hillary Show at gmail.com.
Or just in the comments.
Yeah.
Whatever the name of the song is, that was really important to her. And I loved that. We also learn in the movie about Grandpa's journey after he came back from Vietnam.
Right.
And how that was a really big part of his story. And she finally, after all these years, gets to hear some of Grandpa's story. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really a beautiful part of the movie. So I have one more part to that 4th of July.
Yep.
When we finally circle back to the end of the movie, we have Merritt and Grandpa once again at the 4th of July, but this time she is also a veteran. Mm-hmm. And they play the song and Grandpa doesn't stand.
Right. I was like, what?
You're like getting uncomfortable. Yeah. He's like, why? And then you realize, well, because Grandpa also has Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And that's another theme throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And so Merritt looks over and realizes, because I thought, well, maybe she'll stand. She wasn't going to stand until Grandpa stood.
Right.
And I mean, I was just like choking up. I couldn't hardly breathe. I'm like, I need him to stand.
Thankfully, I had leftover napkins from the popcorn.
I know, you're handing them over to me. Finally, Grandpa, like, it jogs his memory. Oh, I should stand. So Grandpa stands, and then Merritt stands with him. And now you probably will have to finish this because I'm going to cry. But just the two of them standing together. He was so proud of her. She's so proud of him.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. Well done. Well done, movie makers.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
It was a great moment. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the other things I liked, on a different note, so we don't sit here and cry about the movie. I like the diverse cast. I thought it was kind of cool. At the very end, if you stuck around, if you saw it, we learned a little bit from the writer-producer and how he had served, and the story was based on two friends of his. Sadly, my understanding was that they took their own lives, and he wanted to deal with that. They were both men, and he wrote this, or at some point they made the decision to cast two women in those roles. Mm-hmm. And but I thought it was great, and I kind of because it was fictionalized to that extent, it could have been anybody.
Right.
And I liked that they made Merritt's family multi-ethnic. And so you have, you know, her grandfather's white. Her grandmother, who we only see in a photo, was black. Her mom is mixed. She's obviously mixed. Her friend Zoe is Hispanic. The boyfriend, or, you know, romantic interest, is from India. And I don't know. I thought it was cool. I don't know that we need that in every story or every facet of everything, but every now and then I hear a white person who says, man, there's just so much mixed marriage and so much of this and stuff in movies and TV shows today. It's weird. Why do they have to show that? And I'm like, I don't know that many people that I consider to be out and out racists, but they're just being honest, I guess, about it's different, because for so many years it wasn't like that. And what I would say is America is diverse, and our art should be diverse too.
I thought it was beautiful. And again, it just spoke to the theme of this music, or the theme of this movie is universal. You know, there's a tension throughout the whole movie, and you wonder, like, of course, we know Zoe is dead. My dead friend Zoe.
Yeah.
How did she die? When did she die? Why did she die? You don't know these answers. You're getting little pieces of information as the movie goes along, and that tension kind of builds. You're like, I need to know why she died.
Yeah.
You think maybe it's possibly that moment in the army where they're on guard duty.
Yeah, where she's trying to commit suicide by sniper.
Right. She gets angry and
Yeah.
goes out to
That
the
was
area she's not supposed to be in. And
crazy.
You're so scared at that moment, and that's not how she dies.
Right.
And we realize finally towards the end of the movie that Zoe has committed suicide. And
Yeah.
that's why it's diverse, because this topic can hit anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
Everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, there's going to be sadness in the movie. And again, I just felt like the movie makers did such a great job at the end, toward the end, where Merritt is at the cemetery, and I don't have any popcorn napkins. I'm sorry.
I know. I'll do what I do to church.
Such a good movie.
So
it's making
good.
us cry just thinking about
good.
it.
It was beautifully done.
Well, at the end, when Merritt hugged Zoe at the cemetery, and Zoe said she didn't forgive Merritt,
Right.
you realize, first of all, Zoe's not really there.
Right. Of course. We kind of knew that.
Well, right. I mean, we knew that, but when a movie's that well done, and when they're not making Zoe transparent or looking dead, you know, at times you just get so caught up in it, you don't think about it. And
Right.
then, but as I was kind of ruminating on that, I was like, well, Merritt, the reason when they hugged, Zoe said, I don't forgive you, is because that was Merritt's guilt speaking.
Right. Right.
So really, Merritt couldn't forgive herself, and that's what that was.
Yeah.
But then she realized that if Zoe really was here, if Zoe really could hear my apology, she would forgive me. And that realization helped her to be able to move on and to move forward, and to be able to go to group and actually share, and to be in a state of mind where she could be healthy enough to help take care of her grandfather and keep him out of the retirement home. And, you know, who knows what happens with her and the guy that runs the retirement home, but, you know,
Yeah.
she's ready to be in a more healthy place. So
That really was the breaking point for her. That was the moment where she was able to be free from the guilt.
yeah,
I don't know how fast it was for you, but you're watching that scene where, again, like you said, she hugs Zoe, and when Zoe says, I don't forgive you, I was shocked. Like, it shocks you out of the movie a little bit, because you're like, no, I've gotten to know you, and even I knew, no, Zoe would forgive her.
Yeah.
Because that's just who she was.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about was, look, I'm not a counselor and I didn't serve in the military, but I just wanted to say that it wasn't Merritt's fault that Zoe took her own life. Super sad. Now, could Merritt have been a better friend? Yeah. What we see, some of those scenes, it was kind of quick and we don't get a lot of details, but Merritt was trying to go to college and go on with her life and do all the things. And she tried to stay in touch with Zoe. But then it just got to a point where I guess we're supposed to think that she felt like my life, I'm just in such a different place right now that I can't. Zoe's just sitting at home feeling sorry for herself, and I can't do it. I can't go there. And so I don't know. Again, I'm not a counselor. I have I had two family members that served in the military. I'm not going to name any names, but one of them served in World War II, and he came back an alcoholic and wasn't a great person in many ways for the people close to him for most of the rest of his life. And, I have compassion for that. It's really sad. I know that war messes up a lot of people. I had another relative who served in Vietnam and came back and took his own life.
And I think this movie really does want to end on that note to say, kind of like we shared in some of our podcasts, to be able to speak the truth is so powerful. And that's what they were trying to get Merritt to do, to go to group, to be with people who could relate so they could all tell the truth to each other.
Yeah.
And to be set free.
Yeah.
To be set free by the horrible things that they had endured. Don't isolate. Find a group.
Yeah. Again, we're not experts, but if you're struggling with stuff, talk to someone, get some help, because ultimately no one can live your life for you. Hopefully you have friends, hopefully you have family that are there for you, that are a positive influence, but ultimately no one can live your life for you but you. And take that step, reach out, get some help, talk to somebody. We want the best for everyone.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So we're talking about movies, having a big emotional moment, and talking about some serious stuff. But
I've got a new rule.
What's that?
If you needed tissues in the movie, then we need tissues for the post view.
That's a good.
Yeah,
that's rule. A good rule.
Because we just about didn't make it.
This was one of the best movies I've seen in a while, and it deserves a good discussion. And so hopefully we did that. And we thank you for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed this discussion. And if you watched it without having watched the movie, hopefully now you'll go and invest in that. It's definitely worth your time. But for now, we're David and Hillary.
The movie was My Dead Friend Zoe.
And that's our post view.